And I would even look out the window and see everybody walking around and just wonder, what are they doing all day? What are they doing at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday that they could be in a car, they could be walking their dog? Like, how do these people make a living? And I was thinking to myself, how can I be that person? But I was stuck in the office, and I was thinking, this is my only way to be successful, and this is my only way to make money, is to be in this environment. I thought this was it. I couldn't see any other way out. And so for me, I just felt like, I felt so depressed and so fatigued. And all I wanted to do is just go home. I didn't have any energy to see any of my friends because I was so depressed that all I wanted to do was just go home and watch TV. And then the next morning, it would be so difficult for me to wake up in the morning because I didn't want to go there. But I would force myself to go there. I didn't want to wear a collared shirt anymore. I didn't want to wear khakis anymore. Didn't want to wear dress shoes anymore. I just wanted to wear what I wanted to wear. But I had to, so I did it anyway. What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So it happened. I am now one of those guys who films in his garage. I'm actually here in my garage, no joke. I had like 400 and something square feet of garage space that wasn't really being used, so I completely renovated it and transformed it into my office slash YouTube studio slash tax write-off. Anyway, so I got my desk here and I got my car over here, and yes, that is a Jurassic Park sticker on the side of my car. No, I'm not incredibly insane. It's for Halloween, so I thought it would be funny for the lulz. It's still pretty funny, but anyway, that's for Halloween. So anyway, besides all that cool stuff, I'm gonna be sharing my experience of working a 9 to 5 and how I will never do that again. And I'm not the type of person, by the way, to feel like, helpless or confined or depressed. But there was actually a time where I felt all of these things times 10. I never really go into this story just because it was so short-lived. I only worked for this company for about a month and a half before I started selling real estate. But it's really one of these experiences that made such a huge impact on me and really taught me what I wanted out of life and what I didn't want. And so I feel like, I want to share this story with you guys, and maybe some of you can relate to this. So here's my story, and by the way, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who's working a 9 to 5 career. There are some 9 to 5 jobs out there that people would kill to work for. There are some great companies out there that are amazing. This is really coming just from my one experience with one company, and it certainly doesn't represent all the other amazing companies out there, so don't get the feeling that I'm like totally against 9 to 5 jobs. In fact, I'm really not. This is just my experience and why it doesn't work for me. This is at a time, by the way, when I thought like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to college, I'm gonna get like a real job, I'm gonna go into investments because I liked investments too. I was gonna get something a little bit more stable. And at that point, I had applied to colleges. I hadn't heard from anybody yet. So I figured, you know what, now is a good time. Let me actually like get another job. I wanna work in investments. So let me start applying around during this time I have off. And then, maybe I'll start in college in like September or whenever college starts, And I have all this time where I can get some work experience in and maybe make some money. But I remembered as a kid, I was really big into coin collecting. And what I would do as a kid, I'd save up like birthdays and Christmases and stuff like that. And I'd buy these like old American coins. I really wanted this 1999 proof platinum American Eagle coin. I had really wanted this. I admired it from this book that I got, like the red book of numismatic coins. This is gonna be it, so I bought that coin when I was, a lot younger. So I was thinking, now that I was like, almost 18 years old, about to graduate high school, I was thinking, you know what? This company is still in business that I bought the coin from. I should just send them an email instead. So I did that. I wrote them a really kind of like a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs long email. I'm actually going to attach the screenshot here so you can see exactly what I said back in like March of 2008. This is crazy. This is almost like 10 years ago this has all happened. So I sent them an email saying, I really want to get into investments. This is what I want to do. I want to be involved in business somehow. This would be really cool to come full circle in that, I bought a coin from you guys when I was 11 years old, and now that I'm almost 18, I'm working for the same company. Like, that would be such a cool story. So I sent them the email, and then a few days later, I remember being in a movie theater, getting a call, and thinking wait a second, this is the company. This is the company. I'm not going to mention any names here, but this is it. This is it. And I stepped out of the movie theater, and it was. And they wanted to meet with me, and I was just like, oh my God, this is it. I can't believe they'd actually even call me back. And I met with one of the managers there, and he was really impressed with the email I had sent and thinks it's so cool that I was this kid who had bought a coin from them so many years ago that I now want to work with them. And they agreed to let me start working there. And now it's not like some crazy, like they're putting me at the very top. I was starting from the bottom. Now he was telling me, you're going to start at the bottom and you're going to slowly work your way up over time. But we really see a lot of potential in you. I really believe in you. And I really think you can do well in this. So the morning I started working, I met with the guy who hired me. And I told him, like, I want to work I want to do sales. I really want to be the guy on the phone. I really want to like talk to the customers. I want to do that. Explained to me that like I have no sales experience, don't have the college degree. I'm too young. He told me the same stuff that like everyone else told me, but he told me you can work your way up. We're going to start here. We're going to see how you do and then slowly work your way up over time. And then when you're older, you're going to have a shot to do this. So I thought, oh, okay, cool. That's fine with me. And I remember my first day so vividly. They had a very strict dress code that was basically you have to wear dress shoes, khakis, a collared shirt. It was pretty conservative. I mean, there were no exceptions on the dress code. You had to wear these things. But I was thinking, okay, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Like, I thought it was actually cool to be like in an environment that required you to wear these things. Like, I thought that was really prestigious to be like in a career where you actually had to wear collared shirt and like dress shoes. Like, that was like a really luxurious career. And also the first day of work, I showed up like super early because I was so excited to go to work. Now, one of the first things I noticed when I started, and I started on a Monday morning, is that everyone else around me was almost like a bit of a zombie. A lot of people walked in with their heads down, weren't really too social. They didn't look too happy to be there, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. It just seemed like there wasn't any personality there. It just felt like it was this very corporate stiffness about everybody that I couldn't quite put my finger on because this was my first time ever really experiencing this. So I didn't think too much of it. I was just, I think I was just pretty excited just to be there. So they started me off that day doing data entry, and this is like some really mind-numbing stuff that basically a monkey can do. They give you a big stack of papers, and they had me input some numbers from the papers onto this computer system software that they had. And I had to go through all of these papers, input all the information. People would continue stacking like more papers on. I have to do that information. And then every 30 minutes, I would deliver the inter-office mail. Then if I worked really smartly and I like finished all my data entry stuff, if I had nothing to do, what they would do is then have me stuff envelopes and like seal envelopes and stuff. So my first few days actually went all right, and I made a few like friends, if you can even call them that. I mean, they're more just like people that would actually talk to me. But then I had my first incident, and I've always been used to this environment, by the way, where you can go up and just like talk to anybody, and it's just not an issue. So I was walking by the CEO's office and his door was wide open and he didn't look busy at all. And I think he was like on his phone or something like that. He seemed pretty bored. So I just knocked on his door and he said, "Yes, can I help you?" And I said, "Hey, my name is Graham. I just started working here a few days ago. I just want to introduce myself and say I'm super excited to be here. Trying to learn as much as I can. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. I hope one day to be an account executive like all of these guys over here. But anyway, that's all. I'll let you go. But thank you so much." And he seemed pretty nice. He's like, "Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that." And then I didn't think anything of it. Then, no joke, later that day, that same day, I got called in by another manager. Now, we had different managers. We had the manager for the back office, the manager for the general place, who's the one that hired me. And then we have like, a senior dude, and then we have the CEO. So there's definitely like a chain of command. So the back office manager calls me in, says that she received a complaint that I interrupted the CEO by going and like knocking on the door. I can't do that. So she explained to me, can't do that. Instead, if you want to talk to somebody else, you have to put in a request that then needs to get approved, go on its way up, and then you can actually talk to that person, which I thought was just like, what the f are you talking? Like, this is weird. I have to send in a request just to like introduce myself to this guy. That's weird. But like literally that's what they thought. They're like, you have to tell me, I have to tell the manager, I have to tell he has to tell someone else who has to tell that guy, and then that guy has to approve on that. So I blew my mind. But anyway, I was like, all right, and that's really when you begin to learn the chain of corporate command. It's just like this weird, outdated hierarchy of just like people. It doesn't make any sense, but they've been doing it for so long that it's just a custom now. Another few days went by, and then I had my second incident, and I noticed that we had styrofoam cups for all like the little water dispensers. And the little tiny ones too, so they couldn't even hold that much water. It's like one gulp of water and like the whole cup is gone. So I talked to the back office manager, going up the chain of command like she suggested. And I suggested to her, listen, we're using these styrofoam cups. It's terrible for the environment. We can't recycle these. We throw them out. In fact, there is no even recycling. How about this? How about at the very least we get paper cups? That'll be so much better than using the styrofoam. And she was actually really polite about it. She's like, okay, I'll take a note of this and I'll bring it up to our manager and we'll discuss it. Well, later that same day, I get a call from the manager who very politely just tells me to mind my own business, not to focus on anything else that's going around, and just to do my job. Again, he said this very politely and very lightly, so it wasn't like him scolding me by any means, but in a very polite way, he just basically told me this is a stupid fucking idea. Why are you thinking about this? Focus on your work. Don't focus on the styrofoam cups. So, okay, that was incident number 2. Now, the second week really began to wear on me. Now, I was doing data entry all day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the computer, data entry, stuffing envelopes if I had finished that early, running around doing mail from front and back office every single day. Like, it really began to wear on me. So what I thought I would do instead, bring my iPod, one headphone, and put it in my ear as I was doing data entry. So I started doing this, and I actually really liked it. It became this thing where I could just go to work, zone out for a little bit, listen to music, do data entry, do my job, but listen to music, and it became, somewhat enjoyable. And it wasn't too long after that that I again got called by the back office manager, who told me there's a policy of no earphones at all. It's just like office policy. It's like, I don't get it. Like, I'm here in the back office. Like, I have one headphone in. I can hear everything else that's going around me. But you can't do that. It's office policy. No exceptions. If we allowed you to do it, everyone else would want to do it, and then a whole business collapses or some weird crap like that, so like you can't do it. And that's when you really begin to realize just how outdated the corporate culture is. A lot of the things that they do make absolutely no sense whatsoever, but they do it just because they've been doing it for such a long time, and that's the norm. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't do anything for productivity. It's just like, this is our policy. This is what we do. We're not going to change for anybody. This is how it is. Like, everyone just has a giant stick up their ass all the time. And I was really getting fed up with it, especially in a very conservative culture like investments. And quick side rant here, but it's no wonder kids don't give a shit about investing their money and growing it. You know why? Because it is boring. The way they make it out to be with these corporate suits and all this, crap, they make it seem boring. They make it seem numbing and mindless. And that's one of the things that, like, partly with this channel that I want to change, is I want to change that up. I don't want investing to be this boring subject that only like a 65-year-old retiree gives a shit about. I really want it to be something that, a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old will have just as much interest in, because it's cool and because it's interesting, and not just because some dude in a suit is sitting there in front of a whiteboard like, this is your 401k, this is your that. And so anyway, that's part of my side rant here on the culture of investing, but it's so outdated. And just, it doesn't make any sense. So anyway, now I'm about 2 weeks in, and it really started to get bad for me. And I've never been a depressed person, and I've always been pretty happy, and I've always seen the glass half full. I've always been able to see the bigger picture and really see the best in things. But this is one of those things that really, really got me depressed. And it got to the point where I just would go home. No, I'll be vulnerable for the camera here, but I would literally just go home and cry. And I'm not even joking on that. I'm not saying this for YouTube. I'm not sure, but that was the truth. I would go home and I would cry because I was like, I can't believe this is it. Am I really going to be spending my whole life doing this? Is this what getting a job is like? Is it really just like this until I die? And I felt almost just like I had built this up into my mind as being this huge thing, and like being this like success, and this guy, the manager, was vouching for me and really, believing in me. And here I was just like despising it. I was afraid I was going to let him down. And I hated being there. I would see all my friends going out and like doing fun things, and I couldn't be a part of that because I was at work all day. So I was missing out on the time in between high school and college where all my friends were doing something and I was sitting there in an office. And I would even look out the window and see everybody walking around and just wonder, what are they doing all day? What are they doing at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday that they could be in a car, they could be walking their dog? Like, how do these people make a living? And I was thinking to myself, how can I be that person? But I was stuck in the office, and I was thinking, this is my only way to be successful, and this is my only way to make money is to be in this environment. I thought this was it. I couldn't see any other way out. And so for me, I just felt so depressed and so fatigued. And all I wanted to do is just go home. I didn't have any energy to see any of my friends because I was so depressed that all I wanted to do was just go home and watch TV. And then the next morning, it would be so difficult for me to wake up in the morning because I didn't want to go there. But I would force myself to go there. I didn't want to wear a collared shirt anymore. I didn't want to wear khakis anymore. Didn't want to wear dress shoes anymore. I just wanted to wear what I wanted to wear. But I had to, so I did it anyway. So after about 2.5 weeks, I decided it's time, I'm gonna quit. After 2.5 weeks of doing this, I couldn't stand it. So I went and I scheduled a meeting with the manager who hired me. And I sat down with him at the end of the day and I told him exactly that. I told him how I was feeling. I was telling him I didn't like what I was doing. And I told him I wanted to leave. And I could tell he was pretty disappointed. And he told me this story that I will never forget. And he explained to me there are two types of people out there. The first type of person is somebody who, when they get to a roadblock or get to an obstacle, instead of putting in the effort to get through that, they stop, they go sideways, and they turn around and they walk away. The other type of person gets to an obstacle like that, sees it, figures, you know what, I'm going to tackle that. And they go and they tackle that. They get over it, and then they move on. The first type of person never really moves on. They get to whatever obstacle is there, stop there, and then go sideways. Get to another obstacle, sideways. They're never going forward. They're always just going to the side. And then he looked at me and he says, which type of person are you? Are you the type of person who's going to get to the roadblock and stop? Or are you the person who's going to go, get beyond that, and continue forward? At that time, I was speechless. Like, keep in mind, I'm some high school kid for the most part. And I was just like, I'm not the first type. I'm good. I'm the second type. I'm the second type. I'll stick with it. So I decided against my best judgment to stick with it a little bit longer because I didn't want to be the first type. I left that day and I thought, you know what? In my mind, I felt like I was climbing this corporate ladder. And I was trying to climb this ladder to get to the top. But what I felt is that the ladder where I wanted to go was facing the wrong building. So it doesn't matter how far I climb up here because I'm going the wrong way. My ladder needs to be over here instead. But again, against my better judgment, I figured, you know what? This is all just in my head. What am I complaining for? I got this opportunity. I really need to see this through and keep going. Plus, I can't disappoint the guy who hired me. So now I'm on my third week, and it was even worse than the second. It was never like you're gonna work smarter and make more money. It was always like, this is how much money you're gonna earn. This is what you're gonna do. This is all day you have to finish this. As long as you finish what you have to do by the end of the day, you're okay. And I just continued to deteriorate every single day. Every single day, I got more and more and more depressed. And I would almost come in with tears in my eyes because I didn't want to be there. And every now and then I'd get anxiety. I'm the type that gets like caught in my head sometimes, and I run through all these scenarios, and it's very easy when you're in a position where you're just like feeling helpless and you're so depressed and you're so sad to run through these scenarios in your head. And so not only was I like sad and depressed, I was also now anxious and feeling like, panic deep down because like I didn't want to continue, I wanted to quit. And that's when I got called in again to the back office manager who saw me clocking in 10, 15 minutes early every single day. Now, in all fairness, I did get there early. I wanted to beat traffic. I didn't want to be late. So what I would do is I'd get there a little bit early. When I was there, I would just clock in and start working maybe like 10 to 15 minutes early. Apparently, you can't do that. You need, even if you're 15 minutes early, you need to wait until it's 8 a.m., until your time starts, and then you can clock in. It's so fucking stupid. I didn't get it. So what I would do now is the next day, I would sit there in line, and there were like 6, 7 dudes in line waiting to check in at 8 a.m. These are all people who were there early, ready to work, and they're sitting around just waiting for it to be 8 a.m. so they can start work. It made no sense whatsoever. That was another thing that really started to get to me. It's like, why do you do this? Why? It doesn't make any sense. So as I was talking to her, I mentioned, okay, so you know what? I'll make sure every day I'm clocked in at 8. I'll make sure I'm clocked out at 5. But can I at least shift my lunch hour? Can I at least, instead of taking my lunch from 1 to 2, can I do like a 2 to 3 or a 3 to 4 lunch? Like, I'm never hungry at that time. And that was another one of these things that she was like, nope, you gotta take your 1 hour lunch from this hour to this hour. You have to clock out at this time, you have to clock back in at this time. And it was one of these things, like, it didn't make any difference if I took my lunch at 3 to 4, then from like 12 to 1 or 1 to 2. It made no sense whatsoever that I'm forced to take a lunch, maybe when I'm not really hungry at that time, but like I have to do it because, again, that's company policy. And I really started to feel trapped and just like sad. And you start to look around at all the people around you, and you get to see these people that just like, they were lifeless. I felt like they would come into the office at 8 a.m. on a Monday, just sad. Like they weren't really themselves. Like they had this shield up of who they actually were that is just, everything is subdued. And most of them, like, you don't see these people ever really come to life until like Friday at 3, 4 p.m. Like that's the only time you see these people smiling, laughing, joking around, talking, being friendly. Friday at like 4. That was it. Before then, it's just like this cloudiness. I can't really explain it other than just like this fog. It's like a mind fog that kind of takes you over. And it feels almost paralyzing. Now I'm like 3.5 weeks in and I am ready to quit again. So I scheduled a time to meet with the office manager again. And at that time I was so nervous about doing this again because I was thinking, like, you know what? He thinks I'm a failure. He thinks I'm a screw up. I can't believe I'm now going back again after his whole story, after him vouching for me, after all of this. I'm actually gonna go back in there again and leave and quit. But it didn't happen. So when I met with him, I told him exactly the same thing that I told you guys right now. Same thing, laid it all out on the line, told him exactly how I was feeling. And he told me the same story again. He said something similar happened with a colleague of his back when he first started his career. Colleague would get to a roadblock, stop, turn around. That colleague back a few years ago left his job. He said he got to a roadblock, is not the type to go through that, but he left his job. Decided to pursue something else instead because he got to that roadblock. Now, he told me that person still has not found a job, is unemployed. His wife left him and he got a divorce. And his life is basically, it's ruined. Like, he has no money, he doesn't have a job, doesn't have a wife anymore. That is the type of person who is the person number one who, when they get to a roadblock, doesn't keep going. And he looks at me and like, I was some young kid. And he says again, what type of person are you? Now this does two things. One, it was motivating for me to stick with it because I wanted to prove him wrong. I'm like, you know what? I'm not that first person. But it was also, I felt, highly manipulative of someone who is pretty fresh into business and who's pretty naive and doesn't want to let other people down. And I'm thinking to myself, that was an extreme example. But I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, I don't want to be without no money and without a job. I don't want to get I didn't even have, no, I did have a girlfriend at the time, but like, I'm person number 2. So again, I stuck with it. And I said, okay, I could do it this time. This is it, I'm gonna give it all I have, I'm gonna continue doing this. But before I left, I asked him if there was anything else I could do. I told him that I really wanted to be an account executive. I told him I wanted to be in the front office doing sales, talking to the customers. I told him I would be great at this. They had like a sales training class starting like the week afterwards. I'm like, please let me at least do that. I'll be so happy if I just do that. I'll be really good at sales. And again, he told me the same thing. You're not old enough. You have no sales experience. That's, blah, 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 all that, garbage that a lot of people tell you. So anyway, no luck, went back into doing what I was going to be doing. That's when the depression that I had really got out of hand. I mean, it was really just like, I didn't give a shit about anything anymore. That's how bad it got I was looking forward to nothing. I didn't even like the weekends because just the weekend reminded me that I have to go to work again on Monday. Like, that's how bad it was. So if it wasn't bad enough, it was also at the same time that I found out didn't get into any college. So now I'm here and I have no college coming up. I'm this high school graduate working this job that I absolutely despise. And I don't know what to do. I mean, I was pretty lost. So that was actually at the time I decided to go and get my real estate license, because this was one of those things that figured I don't need a college degree to do. It's in sales. It could be really fun to do, and leave this and do real estate instead. So I started taking my exams and my classes online while I was still working this terrible job. I just really wanted to do anything to escape that 9-to-5 job that I had. So the following week, I had one of my final incidents. Now, like I said, it's required, it's strict dress code to wear dress shoes at all times while working. I, one day, forgot to wear my dress shoes. Don't know what happened. I think I just put on the wrong pair, showed up to work. By about 10, 11 a.m., I got called into the back office manager's office. Told me my shoes were unacceptable. They weren't even bad shoes or anything like that. They were just black sneakers instead of black dress shoes. Told me that is unacceptable and that I'm gonna have to be sent home that day, have a mark on my employment, or what I don't know what a mark means, have a mark on that, and be sent home for the rest of the day without pay for not wearing shoes. And I was explaining this is crazy. I am in a back office at a desk, nobody sees me, and I'm wearing shoes. I am here ready to work, and you're sending me home for something that's as crazy random as just not wearing dress shoes for one day. And after pleading my case, she was like, okay, you can stay back there, but you can't leave your desk. We don't want to have other people see you with the shoes. But you can finish up the day, just make sure it never happens again. And so that was almost one of the final straws for me, because it was that's ridiculous. I don't want to be a part of any sort of culture where you can't wear what you want to wear. You can't wear shoes. That blew my mind. And I couldn't even see myself getting out of it, because I'm if I leave, I'm going to be this person who's stuck as person number one, who's going to fail at everything. But if I stick with it, if I'm person number two, I'm just going to be miserable. So the way I saw it is it's a lose-lose. There's no winning in this. It's either I lose and be the person number one, or I lose and be miserable. What am I going to do? And part of me, by the way, really wanted to keep that job because I didn't want to let the guy down that really went out of his way to hire me. If it wasn't for him, I would have never had that job in the first place. I would have never had that experience or that opportunity in the first place. So I also felt like I really owed a lot to him to stick around a little bit longer, to really see things through. And you know what? Maybe he was right too. I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm what do I really know? This other guy is much more successful than me. He's older than me. He's been doing this a lot longer than me. Maybe he knows something that I don't, and I should probably listen to him and probably trust him, even though that was against my better judgment. Now I was about, I think 6.5 weeks in, maybe 7 weeks into this job that I couldn't stand, that I was so depressed over it. I figured, you know what? This is it. And as soon as I decided in my mind that I'm going to leave, I immediately felt better. It was almost just a switch went off, that I was sad and now I was so happy. And as soon as I felt that switch, I was you know what? I'm making the right choice. So I wrote a letter of resignation. Never felt more happy in my life. But that day when I was about to give him that letter, I was so nervous. I don't know, for all the guys out there, if you see a really cute girl that's at a bar or somewhere, and you want to go up and talk to her, but as you're thinking about it, you just basically have an inner anxiety attack. Your heart races. You're oh my God, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? What's going to happen? I can't do it. I can't do it. And you don't want to do it. That's how I felt. I didn't want to do it, but I knew that I had to. I was deep down, I was so embarrassed and ashamed that I was letting this guy down, but I had to do it. So I forced myself up there. So a quick tip here. Now, whether or not it's a really cute girl or you're quitting your job, one of the best things you can do if you're starting to feel that intense panic that rushes over you is just walk towards it. Don't even think about it. It's literally just you walk towards it. And as soon as you start walking, you get the momentum, and then from there it's a lot easier. So I just forced myself to walk up to his office. I had nothing planned to say. I knocked on the door, and my mouth was dry, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I handed him the letter. He undoes it, and he reads it, and he's like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure this is it. I can't do this anymore, but I'll give the 2 weeks. And I think he said, well, you know what, if you want to leave tonight, you can leave tonight. And I was just like, yes, yeah. Without even thinking about it, I was just like, yes, done. And that night was probably one of the most free I think I've ever felt, because it meant I was finally done with that I can put that chapter behind me as something that I learned immensely from, that I could never be a part of that culture. It doesn't work with who I am as a person and what I want to do and my own visions and my own creativity and what I want to grow. I can't do that working in an environment that's that, like, you know, suffocating. As I quit, I decided, you know what, I'm going to pursue real estate. And that's really what got me into doing real estate, was because I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to work my own hours. I wanted to wear what I wanted to wear. I wanted to make more money because I was working harder and working smarter. And not just because, like, I have to do this certain thing, and no matter how hard I work, I'm not going to earn over a certain amount. I really wanted something where the income was unlimited, that there was so much potential. I could really put my own touches on things. Part of the reason why I like YouTube videos is just because it's creative for me. It's something that I can put my own touch on and share my own experiences with and have my own thing. And that's why I kind of gravitate towards real estate. Now, again, this story is not to talk shit or talk down about people who have a 9-to-5. Because frankly, there are some amazing 9-to-5 careers out there. I mean, just look at like Google. If you work for Google, I'm sure like that's amazing. But working with a lot of these like tech offices, those I'm sure, you know, people would kill to be a part of that. Other people love the consistency of a 9-to-5 work. They love not having the pressures of being their own boss. So I'm not talking down about anybody who has a 9-to-5 or saying that that's worse than something else. This is just purely my experience of being in that culture with this one position. Who knows? I mean, maybe if I had a different career, a different job that was 9-to-5, I'd have a totally different experience with it. But this is just my one experience working this one job. And from that, I will never even work anything remotely similar to that because of how bad that one was. So, as always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you actually made it all the way through, I commend you. I mean, you were like the real true subscribers if you watched this whole thing. Actually, how about this? If you watch the whole thing, comment down below and just be like, I watched the whole thing. Because if you watch the whole thing, I mean, that's impressive. I really appreciate that. So I'll make sure I comment and respond to every single one of you that gets to this point, watches the whole thing, who writes that in. I seriously really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. Now, if you haven't already added me on the Snapchat and the Instagram, feel free to add me on there because I post there pretty much daily. I also posted like all these renovation updates for the garage office on there. So if you want to be a part of it there, feel free to add me. Thank you again for watching so much. I really appreciate it. And until next time.